I had hardly worked for 10 minutes when I heard a loud shout, and suddenly there were people all around me. When I married my second wife, Kate, I moved to her house in San Francisco. It's a large house with a lot of land around it. The house next door is almost exactly the same as ours, and that one belongs to Kate's sister, Brittany. Kate and Brittany are sisters, but they are completely different in looks and character. Brittany is tall and rather slim. She's very strong-minded and likes to control everyone around her, including Kate. She wasn't happy at all when I came and took Kate away from her influence. Kate is rather short and, well, a bit heavier. As she says, she weighs an extra 12 kilos. She doesn't consider herself very clever, and she usually does what other people want. Not always, though. Kate had been away for 3 weeks now, but Brittany had been watching me closely. She was with me now, drinking tea in our sitting area. The telephone rang, and I answered it. Yes.
Hello, dear. This is Kate.
Kate, what is your last name?
Oh, really, dear? Kate, your wife.
I'm sorry. You must have dialed a wrong number. I put the telephone down. Brittany was watching me.
You look frightened, shocked. Who telephoned?
It was a wrong number. Brittany drank some coffee.
Oh, George, I thought I saw Kate in town yesterday, but that's not possible.
Of course not. Kate is in New York.
Yes, but where in New York?
She didn't tell me that. I just know that she is visiting friends.
Kate doesn't have any friends in New York. I know all her friends. When will she be back?
She wasn't sure when it would be.
George, I've heard that your first wife died in a boating accident. She fell out of the boat and died in the water.
I'm afraid so. She couldn't swim.
And you were the only one who saw it happen?
I believe so. No one else ever came forward.
Did she leave you any money, George?
That's none of your business, Brittany. In fact, my first wife, Emily, had $60,000 of life insurance and one sailing boat. Poor Emily. She went on the boat alone that day. I had seen the accident from the boat club and rushed out in another boat, but it was too late to save her. Brittany finished her coffee and left. When she had gone, I went for a walk through the woods behind the house. I walked to an open space between the trees, which had a little stream running through it. It was a very peaceful and quiet place, a place to rest. I'd been coming here often in the last few days. I sat underneath the tree near the stream and thought about Kate and Brittany. Their houses and land were alike, so you might think they were equally rich. But that wasn't the case, as I found out after my marriage. Kate owned her house and the land around it, but she couldn't afford to hire people to look after them. Brittany, on the other hand, hired many people to work in her house, and even a lawyer to take care of her money. She must have at least $1 million. On Thursday afternoons, I usually go to the supermarket in town. Today, in the parking lot, I saw a small, rather fat woman across the street walking away from me. She wore a black dress and a gray hat. It was the third time I'd seen her in the last 10 days. I ran across the street. She turned the corner, and I began to run. When I reached the corner, she was nowhere to be seen. I was standing there when a car stopped beside me. It was Brittany.
What are you doing, George? I saw you running. I've never seen you run before.
Oh, I was just doing some exercise. I was still breathing hard as I walked back to the supermarket. The next morning, when I returned from my walk to the stream, I found Brittany in the dining room, drinking some coffee.
I've been in the bedroom looking at Kate's clothes. I didn't find anything missing.
Brittany said. Why should anything be missing? Has there been a thief in the house?
Don't tell me that Kate went off to stay with friends in New York without any luggage.
She had luggage. It just wasn't very much.
What was she wearing when she left?
I don't remember, I said. That evening, as I prepared for bed, I looked inside Kate's wardrobe. What could be done with her clothes? Maybe I should give away some. The next morning, Brittany came to see me while I was eating breakfast. She brought in the Morning Post, which had just come. It included one small envelope addressed to me. The writing seemed familiar. The postmark was our local town. I opened the envelope and pulled out a sheet of paper.
Dear George, I miss you very much. I shall return home soon. Love, Kate.
I put the letter and the envelope into my pocket.
Well, I thought I recognized Kate's writing on the envelope. Did she write when she'll be back?
Brittany asked. That is not Kate's writing. It's a letter from my aunt in California.
I didn't know you had an aunt in California.
Don't worry, Brittany. I do have an aunt in California. That night, I was in bed but awake when the telephone beside my bed rang.
Hello, my sweet husband. This is Kate.
You are not Kate. You are someone else.
Don't be silly, George. Of course, this is me, Kate.
You can't be Kate. I know where she is, and she couldn't telephone at this time of night.
You think you know where I am? No, I'm not there now. It was too uncomfortable, so I left George.
I got out of bed and dressed. I went downstairs to the kitchen and made myself a drink. I drank it slowly. It was nearly 2 o'clock in the night when I went to the garden once again and took out the spade. This time, I went all the way to the space between the trees. I stopped at the tallest tree. I began taking big steps, counting at the same time. 1, 2, 3, 4. I stopped at 15. Then I began digging. I had been digging for hardly 10 minutes when I heard a shout, and suddenly there were people all around me, shining lights on my face. I recognized some of the people who worked for Brittany, including her lawyer. Brittany herself stepped forward and said,
So you wanted to be sure she was really dead, George. And the only way to do that was to return to the place where you buried her.
I am looking for old Egyptian knives. There's a belief that if you find one in the moonlight, it will bring you good luck, I said. Brittany didn't care about what I said. She pointed to some people I didn't know.
These are private detectives.
she said.
They have been watching you 24 hours a day, ever since I guessed what really happened to Kate.
She pointed at a tall woman.
That's Mrs. Elizabeth. She was the woman in the black dress, and she copied Kate's writing. And this is Miss Richard. She is good at copying voices, and she was the voice of Kate you heard on the telephone.
There were also 3 detectives who had brought their own spades. They began digging in the hole which I had started.
We knew you were getting worried, George. You almost buried her last night, didn't you? But then you changed your mind. That was lucky, because last night I didn't have so many people to watch you. Tonight we were ready and waiting,
said Brittany. The detectives dug for about 20 minutes and then paused for a rest.
This ground is very hard,
said one. They continued digging until the hole was 2 meters deep.
Nothing has been buried here. The only thing we found was an old Egyptian knife.
I smiled at Brittany. What makes you think I buried Kate? I left them and went back to my house. I had guessed from the beginning that Brittany was responsible for the false Kate that had appeared to me in different forms. It was all part of her plan. What had been her objective? Well, she believed that I had killed her sister, so she wanted to frighten me until I broke down and said, yes, I killed her. But I'd been playing a game too. I wanted her to think I was frightened, and of course, I wanted her to think I had buried Kate's body in the woods. Now I was in a strong position. She had called me a murderer in front of all those witnesses. I could take the matter to court and demand large sum of money from her. But she wouldn't let that happen. She wouldn't want the world to know she had been stupid. She would prefer to pay those people to keep silent. Would that be possible? Well, it would help if I supported her story and said that nothing had happened at all. And I would do that for Brittany if she gave me some money, a large amount of money. By the end of the week, my telephone rang.
This is Kate. I'm coming home, my sweet.
Oh, great.
Did anyone miss me?
They certainly did.
You haven't told anyone where I've been these last 4 weeks, have you, George? Especially not Brittany.
I told her you were visiting friends in New York.
Oh, dear. I don't know anybody in New York. Did she believe you?
I don't think so.
Well, I couldn't tell her I was going to a health camp to lose weight. I would be ashamed. And I wasn't sure that I could manage it. But I have, George. I have. I've lost 12 kilos. My figure must be as good as Emily's now.
Well done, Kate. That's great. Why is Kate jealous of my first wife? They each have their own place in my heart.
Yes, but none of my clothes will fit me now. I'll have to get a lot of new clothes. Do you think we can afford it, George?
We can now. With some help from Brittany.